Hi, I'm Wes, and welcome to UnSuppressed. Back again with kind of a new topic for us. We're going to talk about some food, specifically MREs, and how to set those up. Avery is going to have a great lesson for us today on that. Avery, want to take it away?
Yeah. So, a lot of people have different types of concerns when it comes to food and preparing food for the different situations that could happen in the future, whether it's being stranded in your car or backpacking or any of the more advanced, situations that might pop up. And so we're going to talk a little bit about breaking into like different categories of food so that you can kind of figure out what your palate can handle, because that's important as well. Price range, things like that, and what purpose that food is going to have when you're storing it. So yeah, anyone want to chime in? Any antidotes?
Actually, I've got one. Let's start with your car, because I think that's one that everybody can easily put together, and something that and you have to determine long-term sustainment. Not long-term, like it's just got to be able to sit in the car a long time. So how would you start there?
So I usually go with a tiered system when it comes to like everyday stuff. So I have my backpack, which just has a few little snacks in it. Usually those are things like granola bars, things that won't melt in the heat, because if you do leave your backpack in the car, then the heat might affect the food that's packed. So those are small little individual things. And then I'll have something more advanced. A lot of people just grab a couple MREs and throw them in their vehicle, which that's really good, because MREs are meals ready to eat, which means you just open them up and away you go. You don't have to worry about cooking them or heating them or anything like that. They usually come with a little heating element, which kind of makes them taste a little bit better. But in my opinion, I'm not a big fan of those at all. And I think I've gone about 10 or so years without eating an MRE, and I'm very proud of that. So I usually do things from store-bought.
So that's a professional move. So anybody who's had an MRE, I have eaten enough of them that I realize that is only for the last ditch effort. That is like, it's powering through food. So if you were going to evaluate beyond granola bars, are you evaluating like self-sustainment for like a 24 to 48 hour period? Plus, are you building that through in terms of, I know you're not looking at macros because you're wanting burst food, right? Like high caloric density in a small package?
Yeah, so I was just resetting from a trip. And so I was just kind of like going through the stuff that I have, the restocking, right? So I went to Walmart and bought a bunch of stuff, and it's a lot of snacks. I'm a big fan of snacks because those are things you can just grab and throw in your pockets. They're going to be more carb-based than protein or fat-based. Although I find that getting healthy fats when you're out, when you're trying to do this type of thing, is really hard. You can get carbs all day long, snacks, granola bars, or chips, or some weird, just whatever you want to throw, candies, hard candies, throw in your pockets, carbs for days. But the challenge is usually when it comes to healthy fats. If you're going to be doing anything freeze dried, they typically don't have fats in them. If you do canned meats or something like that, well, then it's really heavy. So that's a challenge. Proteins, for some reason, at least nowadays with the big, health craze that's been going on, you can find proteins in everything. I mean, there's freaking protein cookies now. There's protein chips. We're just talking about, one or two different types of protein, but I mean, they are healthy everywhere. So
yeah.
You can,
but healthy fats are like flat. You have to find almost natural stuff. And it's almost like you have to pull off the land in order to do it.
So typically what I use is I use coconut oil in a lot of my stuff, because generally speaking, it's a solid. If it gets warm, it can turn into a liquid. So you have to take that in consideration when you're packaging it. But generally speaking, it's a solid. It doesn't mean that you have to cook. More often than not, you'll have to cook whatever it is you're eating with that coconut oil. But that's so like I'll do my oatmeal. I'll do oatmeal, protein powder, coconut oil, honey, and then dried fruits, and I'll throw all that in together, and away I go.
So do you know what the how much per like tablespoon of coconut oil, how much natural fat it has in it then? Because that's supposed to carry some. So I never considered
oil?
that.
Yeah.
I thought, I was going to say it's dense. And you can also bust a chick's ass with it. Bam. I mean, it's also safe. It's
it's a good source of fat. I know that's a big one, like for the keto diet, to get yourself into ketosis, as they say, to take a little bit of coconut oil, like 1 or 2 tablespoons, no more than that.
Do you have a go-to, go ahead.
No,
what?
Fire away.
Oh, I was just going to ask, do you have a go-to protein bar or anything like that that you're using?
No.
I've been using a thing called Pure Protein that it's like 22 grams of protein, but it has enough carbs to keep you rolling. And I actually lift off of one. So like usually I eat that first, then I take and I go lift, and I'm totally good to go. It's like, it's a good balance. I don't have a crash. And
I think that's the one my girlfriend's been using too.
Yeah, they're cost effective and they taste like a candy bar. So you feel like you're cheating. Works out really good. Yeah. So, and they're like the peanut butter crunch one's actually really good, which is, no big surprise because peanut butter has natural fat in it. That's the one thing I was going to ask you. How is that something that you approach? Like if you're looking at your bar base, having peanut butter and stuff in it, because that was immediately what I was thinking about when we started discussing the topic.
Yeah, a lot of the stuff I have has peanut butter. I have these. You can on Amazon. You can buy these. I think they're 8-ounce bags with little twist tops to them, and I'll fill those with peanut butter, and then you can just squeeze the bag out. So it's kind of like a large toothpaste bag.
Dude, I was getting ready to say like NASA style.
Yeah,
and you're good to go.
And
are they tough? Are they like actually pretty?
They're pretty durable.
Pretty durable.
Yeah. I've never had one puncture. It's basically the same material as like a not camelback, but it's platypus. But it's a hydration bladder. It's the same material as that, and the lids are pretty robust. I did have a lid split on me for something else, and it was a hygiene product because I use the same style of bottles for hygiene products, and I had the lid break on one of those because I over tightened it and it popped the top. But anyways.
So now, if you were, have you ever prepped anything?
So some of the other, go ahead.
Oh, so have you ever actually physically prepped like stuff like the way people do protein bars or something and actually make them? Or are you using just all store-bought stuff, easy source?
I use store-bought stuff because those will have the artificial preservatives in it that I want them to have. So unless I'm going on a trip that I know the extent of time, you can make biltong, which is a fat and protein meat source that's been mixed together. In the old days, people would mix berries that were ripe at the time in there with it, dry it out, and then that was kind of like the natural protein bar or hiking food back in the day. But typically that's not done anymore. People don't do that. People don't like the idea of having, chunks of fat and chunks of meat in their backpack. That makes them concerned.
And right until the time they get hungry and need it. So as far as, you've done kind of the full gambit, since you've gone from like hardcore trekking, like, going around the bottom of a hood as fast as possible, civilian style, and all the way to ranger stuff. As far as for a regular average person under a shit hits the fan stress condition, so you have 72 hours where you're going to have to be able to source water, but what would you have with you for food, for actual burst, like being able to, like, I don't know, run security ops? That's a great idea. Yeah,
that's a great angle to put on it. So right now what I'm doing on my person is I run 3 power bars. That's enough to get through the day. So that whether they're Cliff bars or power bars or some muscle head bar or something like that, something that just has a lot of calories in it, really don't care what it tastes like or what it is. You're just going to eat it while you're walking probably. And then in my assault pack, I'll usually have a sandwich. Like if I have the resources, I'll actually just make a sandwich and have it in there. But if not, then it's usually something like a meal that I've made. So what that usually consists of is something that's going to need to be cooked. It's usually a chicken or tuna pack along with macaroni and cheese, microwavable macaroni and cheese pack, or microwavable rice type stuff. And then you just mix all that together in your cup, cook it up, and it's ready to go. So
that's full spectrum. Yeah, I was going to say that would be everything. You have a pretty balanced meal. So everybody discounts. I'm going to say people sleep on sandwiches, like for lifting. And that is one of the most balanced things you can do. It's one of the best things for your body because you're getting basically everything all at once. It's close to your macros if you do it right. But I was curious now for people who have not enjoyed the deliciousness of a brown bag meal ready to eat. When we start talking about, because those have fat entrained in them, correct? They're like plussed up.
Oh yeah. It depends on the year because the history of the MRE. I swear we've talked about this. Have we not talked about this?
Only
The history of the
passively.
MRE?
I've
Okay.
probably mentioned it, but we didn't get into like
Back in
details
the
of it
old
as a full
days,
episode.
right after Vietnam, when the MRE was being researched and the C ration was being retired, the MRE used to contain about 3,000 to 3,400 calories in it. So a full day's worth of calories. What they learned is that people weren't in war all the time and people were eating these things in training environments and they were getting fat. So they decided to pare down the amount of calories that were in them. What that afforded them was the opportunity to kind of get more tasty meals. Because back in the old days, when I first joined the military, we had these dark brown bagged MREs, which I think was probably the first colored bag that they used. And then they had progressed through generations, and I think we're at tan now, which is just kind of like the general bag that's been used for probably 10 or 15 years. But the dark brown bags were an indicator of some old MREs. And those MREs would have, like, one was called the Five Fingers of Death, which was, I think it was 4 or 5, maybe, hot dogs, but they were covered in this gelatinous fat. And it was very, very disgusting.
Vaini weenies of death.
One of my least favorite was the beef stew, and that literally had chunks of fat in it. And so that was how they gave you calories. But when they pared down the calories, it afforded them the opportunity to make tastier meals. So
You're talking about
now I think
fat
they're
is
down
flavor.
to like,
Yeah, but it's the wrong flavoring because
they
when
are
there's
not
too much.
flavorful.
No, I'll believe you on the nastiness of it. There's a YouTuber I like to watch, Steve 1989, I think.
Is that the newest juice or is that that's Spanish?
Oh, cool.
No.
But
Is that Spain?
Spaniel.
Guy,
Yeah,
Steve,
Spain.
1989.
Yeah.
He'll buy rations and MREs from other countries, and he'll go and do reviews on them. It's really cool. He's gotten his hands on World War II. The oldest one he got was an old ration from pre-World War I. I think it was like 1889.
Are you sure you'd really want to eat that? I mean,
he did. He ate it. It had rust over most of it.
Yeah.
The thing was compromised. The majority of it was rusted, but he pulled off the outsides. He got this like chunk of like this dried stew, and he rehydrated it with water. And he took a bite of it. He goes, "That's terrible." But I'm sure it was good 110 years ago. It was just disgusting, but it was also fascinating to see like the history of all these food items that nobody remembers.
Hey, did they teach you to eat bugs and shit in Ranger School? Like anything that you can?
No, they offer you a chance in Ranger School to eat a worm, but they didn't force anybody to.
Is it a mealworm?
Here's some instruction. No, it's a red wiggler.
Just an earthworm,
if you will.
Oh,
this is the Spanish MRE. It's amazing, packed quite nicely.
Wow.
What do we have here? We have it's in Spanish. Sopa de pollo con pasta. I'm assuming
chicken.
that is
chicken and pasta.
Yeah. I'm assuming that's a sauce, or maybe it's chicken stew or something. Caffeinate vitamin C.
Vitamin C powder.
okay.
So you got drink. You got
Probably
drink powder.
like a citrus flavored drink, like Emergency.
Okay.
Another one.
Okay. That's 2 canteens
Did you
worth.
get these when you were over in Spain
3 canteens worth.
with the Missile West event?
Oh, this is cool. Yeah. Water purification tablets, 2 of them.
That's smart
I think
because
that's what they are.
when in doubt, plug it up because dysentery sucks.
Get Google Translate to read all the text.
Hi. This is like, does it come with Tabasco? No, that's only American shit.
This is crema
really?
dental fluorata. So toothpaste.
Oh, it's toothpaste, dude. They're trying to take care of it. Brush your teeth.
More vitamin C.
Okay. Apparently, these people are worried about having what's it called? Scurvy. Yeah. What's that?
This is disinfectant.
Oh, it's a moist towelette.
Oh, hand sanitizer. Sanitizer.
That works.
All right, now hold on. Now we got
we're in a main deal.
Is there toilet paper?
Standard MRE matches.
Awesome.
So here, these are little heating tabs, 3 of them.
Is that Sterno? Is that what that is? Is that what that's?
Well, it's usually like hydro something or other.
Well, those for your hands or for the meal?
Meal. That's
This is
tab.
hexomethyl something.
That's instant fire.
Yeah.
Don't worry, it causes cancer. It causes cancer when it burns.
Here is a bouillon cube.
Wow.
And then here is a sardines.
Oh, you lost me at sardines, dude.
Yeah.
I'm more of an anchovies guy.
And then this is probably the main portion of the meal here. I don't know what that is.
Chorizo. Oh, what is that? Con chorizo.
Con chorizo, yeah.
Yeah, your camera picks it up perfectly. Yeah. So now the question is that next week when you eat it live on the air, and you're like, this shit's gross. That'll be one of
crack it open. Alicia's supposed to be doing this. Is a breath mint. Alicia was supposed to, we got 3 of these. We bought one and then we didn't know this, but for doing the event, they gave us like as a thanks a lot for coming out here and hosting the event. They gave us 1 each. And so it was really cool. They put them in these. Hers is still in here. This is the company that was hosted us. So yeah, so they gave us additional meals. But and then inside here is a stove for the fuel tabs.
Oh wow, a little bendy cool. And that's cool.
And then toilet paper. So yeah.
Okay, well we already know what that's
you
for.
Need all the
napkins.
Things.
Yep. Now, do they still to your knowledge, in the current generation of US MREs, do they still come with a little Tabasco bottle? Is that a thing?
Some of them switched over to packets. I saw packets now inside of them. I do not see a bottle.
That little bottle was so cool, and I learned to hate Tabasco sauce because of it, because I ate so much of it when I ate them. The times I was eating, I was like, oh god, because everything tastes like Tabasco, so it kind of ruined it for me. But I used to like Tabasco sauce, But I mean, if I was eating rhinoceros ass, I'd throw some Tabasco on it. Might be not a bad idea.
I'm more of a Frank's Red Hot kind of a guy.
Dude, here's the thing.
Well, they did a pretty good job. They switched things up. They added different flavoring packs. So you obviously have your salt and pepper, but then they have this what's that Pats or something? Just like a non-salt flavoring thing.
Oh, wow, okay. Yeah. So like
Pam or something. I don't know. Just a generic flavor packet.
Like a seasoning salt or a seasoning packet that just made it not taste like shit.
Yeah, I remember in Airsoft getting introduced to them when I first started going to the big events around 2007. I was like, this is kind of cool. You're eating military food. I was like, it's not the best food, but some of the meals were kind of good. And it was around 2008.
Immersion.
And I was working at a gun shop, and we had some MREs come in, and the boss was like, well, we don't have to go out to get lunch anymore. Get some MREs. I'm like, cool. And I opened up one of them. I can't remember what the main was, but I remember getting into the dessert, and it was a bag of M&Ms. And I remember the promotional packaging on that bag of M&Ms from when I was in middle school. And I went, wait a second. I remember this packaging around 2003. It's 2008. I'm eating a 5-year-old bag of M&Ms. What am I doing with my life? And I mean,
you're shooting BBs at each other, eating that shit. That's what you're doing. That's good
I was
to go.
Eating it, in the middle of an office, in a gun store selling guns. I'm like, what am I doing with my life? It was one of those moments. But,
experience.
Yeah, I mean, you're out playing airsoft. It's fun to be part of the experience, to have an MRE, and you're like, yeah, it's terrible food, but it's what the military guys eat. So you're kind of like part of the experience.
I would like to point out, there are certain things in certain MREs, like the Skittles, that would have been highly coveted from what I could tell. You do some high trade shit with that. I could see that being a high trade item. I mean, am I wrong?
Well, these were M&Ms. They were definitely old. I remember opening up an E and going like, yeah, this is not.
That's okay. Those are, they
can last a while. Like you can
melt in your mouth, not in your hand.
Yeah, exactly. There's some items where you're like, yeah, this is actually pretty good. But then there's some items where you go, this is not anything like what it's supposed to resemble.
I would like to point out, during one of the training iterations that we were allowed to be involved with your company, right? So I hate succotash, like the vegetable medley known as succotash. Like it's corn, peas, and carrots all at the same time. Do not like those 3 flavors working together, right? We trained all day working with soldiers, doing the thing in the mountain town. In the evening, they made a meal. And they brought out all the cooking stuff, and they had a hot meal. That shit was fucking delicious. And what I want to point out is, this is the point. The things that you find less flavorful and less wonderful when you're all full fed and everything's good to go versus when you're hungry and your body's saying, I need this thing and that thing and the other thing, two totally different flavor packets kick off. There's a reason why like countries like North Korea, they teach people to eat bugs and shit. And all of a sudden they're like, yeah, man, I'm having this delicious like roach stew. And they're like good with it. Where we'd be like, oh, hell no. But they're like, man, you know any, vitamins you're getting out of roach stew? And that's what I'm saying. It's like, if you, what your palate says when you are in civilian life and everything is what you want it to be, and there's a big competition on flavor versus what necessity provides. All of a sudden that necessity, you're like, man, that tastes fine. Your body's like, you know what? I'm gonna block out all the bad here. This soak give me another scoop. That's delicious. So I mean, that's why I think I've had MREs, the same MRE twice, and it didn't change the flavor. I've had it where it tastes like, oh my fucking God, how am I eating this? And the other times like, man, it's pretty good shit. So I mean, we've all been there, I'm sure. I don't know if you've been there, Wes, but I've definitely been there. So it's like, it's a choice.
No, I agree. There's been times where I've had food where it tastes amazing when I'm hungry. I know as a kid, I noticed that with Gatorade. Like when I was sitting down, I'd been drinking water all day, hadn't been working out, had some Gatorade just down and about. I was like, oh, very good. I'd rather have a soda. And then when I'm out, I'm working out or playing basketball, doing a sport, whatever, and I go and pop open and drink a Gatorade. It's the most delicious thing I've ever had in my entire life.
That's why I said there's a big difference between powdered sugar and cocaine. Sometimes.
No, exactly.
So my point being with it is that I think it's all relative. Like I know that the MREs that I've eaten, some of the stuff's fine. It's fine. Like you can eat it. It's not a big deal. But you're not going in there thinking 5-star restaurant. And I think a lot of people expect it to taste like something that came out of the freezer section, and it's not. Well, it's not going to be.
A lot of people are very much big on like texture and things like that. I know what I'm getting myself into when I have an MRE. It's nutrition. It's providing you with fuel to survive. Yeah. That doesn't mean it has to taste good or bad. It's just that's what it is. It's there.
What was your favorite one, fuel. Avery? Well, okay, I think we had this discussion. What was your favorite?
Yeah, it was macaroni, and it came with a cheese pack that you'd squeeze into it. And
the chili mac one
also came with chili mac.
Chili mac, yeah.
And it came with cheese, and it came with M&Ms as well, and pineapple, and that was like the best. And yeah,
I remember one. It was chicken. There was a beef patty and there was a chicken one. The chicken one, I remember the beef
chicken
patty.
Breast. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. those ones both you could eat, and then you'd have a cracker, and it was like it was like applesauce, and you could make like a apple pie. That was what I remember, like a couple of the ones that I eaten. I was like, some of the other stuff, like it was like beef stroganoff and shit. I'm like, dude, don't. Is that what it was? Was that one of them? It was something funky.
Probably.
Like,
I mean, they've evolved.
Chicken tetrazzini is good. Anything with the macaroni is good. Spaghetti and meatballs was terrible.
That just sounds like a bad idea.
Yeah,
because it didn't have. Yeah,
I had tried to have it. It was terrible. It was.
It's a giant chunk of fat looking at you.
It's like it wanted to be the Chef Boyardee. Like remember the shaped noodle they'd have back in the 90s, like out of the can. It wanted
SpaghettiOs.
Yeah. SpaghettiOs. I remember like the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle SpaghettiOs. I rember those. Like that was my favorite as a kid.
Shit was
it's
gross.
Like it wanted to be SpaghettiOs, but it just couldn't be. It was terrible. But most of the noodles, as long as it wasn't the spaghetti, was usually pretty good.
Okay, now I got a question. Now, not to go completely back off topic into another topic, but I'm going to go back to our topic. For an individual who is going to be, we'll stick with the shit hits the fan sustainment idea. How many calories should they target for a day of sustained security operations? Like within the scope of Europe, let's say you're working 20 hours a day.
I'd shoot for 5,000 to 6,000.
Okay, and then you're rolling. And then how many, now in your experience, how many functional days are they going to be able to roll like that?
Well, let's say this. So when we do MSW events, I pretty much never stop eating. And as soon as before we even start the event, I start eating, and then I just don't stop. I'll usually, so for those events, they're a little different because I have the infrastructure in place and I can buy stuff before I get there. But I'll buy probably like 4 or 5 cheeseburgers from McDonald's or an equivalent type place, and we call them pocket burgers, and we just throw them in our pocket. And then as the night goes on, you got a burger in your pocket.
You just reminded me of the second, the movie, The Longest Yard, the second one.
Yeah.
He has one cheeseburger. Pull it out of his crotch.
Yep. Yeah. A lot of people will do that with like cheese. So you'll get those individual Tillamook cheese packets.
Yep.
And you just throw them in your pocket. Yep. And like it'll be middle of summer and people will be pulling cheese packets out. I'm like, oh, that's soft. Disgusting.
It's very soft.
Nobody ever gets sick from it.
I did that once. I had to go to a weekend long business conference. And I'm like, I can't eat the food that's they're selling out of the concessions. And so I just went and put a cooler in my car and just like put like some cheese packets, the Tillamook, and some guacamole and some other, just
guacamole. Some dangerous shit, bro. You crack that bitch, you better eat it all at once.
Well,
or you're gonna have some black lung.
They're a little personal size. They're about the size of a hockey puck. And
I have
the top. Yeah, you pull the top off of them. You get them from Costco, and then you just
that's a great source of fat too.
Yeah, I was doing the keto diet at the time, so I'd have that with some fruit and some cut up some celery sticks and toss that in there, and so I could just kind of snack on that and have like some jerky or something like that, just so I had food that was edible, that was protein and fat.
That's been always a go-to, having jerky and then something that would be for your protein and your fat. Just as little as you could get. And then I'd never really thought about carrying peanut butter with me. And then
summer sausage. That's what a lot of people do. They'll just have a whole tube of summer sausage and just gnaw on it all day long.
I like to do you can get they're called meat sticks. They're like you can go to the store. They're right next to the jerky. They come in the big plastic tube. Yeah, I just buy the beef sticks and there's like the teriyaki and the pepperoni are the best flavors.
I figured you just go for that big piece of salami that one says Gallo on it.
They're not as greasy as like if you got like a Slim Jim or something like that.
Yeah, the thing is like though is that
$14 for like a bunch of them in a tube, and you just pull a couple of them out. It's a good little source of protein. A lot of sodium, but it's a good source of protein.
When we were in Spain, that's one of the cool things they had. They're big on dried meats over there. And so we would buy literally a tube, like you said, the salami, but we'd buy a tube of dried meat. What I'm assuming is pork or something. And we just have that for lunches, that and a thing of bread. And we just sit down and chop it up and eat it. That was pretty convenient.
Grab a few Tillamook cheese chunks, have yourself a charcuterie board, and bust it out.
We kind of did, we kind of did. Mm-hmm.
Well, dude, I've been there. That's like with the right crackers and shit, you can get away with murder. But under like high stress, having salt is necessary. Mm-hmm. Doing high salt in that environment, you're not worried about your blood pressure there for that couple of days. Like I can say,
as long as you have blood pressure, that's what you're worried about.
Yeah, you really want to maintain that shit, But I would say that. Well, you're saying 5,000 calories a day, and that's actually a really interesting technique of saying you're not stopping to eat. You are munching all day long, so you have a constant source. Your metabolism is not spiking. You're just you're keeping a steady flow in your bloodstream.
My logic is if I have time to eat, I should be eating because I don't know when the next chance will be to eat. And I probably don't lose any weight at those events. I think I probably gain a little bit of weight. I mean, you're usually bloated by the end of it. You're usually,
Salt.
You're just screwed up by the end of the event. But that's kind of been my philosophy is I always go into an event as full as I possibly can. And then make sure I have enough food on me to be able to just constantly eat.
Well, not to bring back the way past, but you told me that during Ranger School, as soon as you got done, you would carb and calorie load like crazy, trying to gain anything you could possibly get before you went back. Because it's you're trying to prep to go forward.
Yeah, so there's 3 phases, and at the end of each phase, you get about 8 hours off. And so people will ship boxes to themselves of food, and then when you get your package before you get your time off, so people will sit there and just go crazy. Gorge on anything and everything. And then usually throw it up and then just keep eating, just trying to get as much food in them as they possibly can. Mm-hmm.
Well, I mean,
mine was mine was a Sherry's Reese's Pieces pie. I ate a whole one of those and a number 2 from McDonald's, and then I grabbed something else when we went back on base that I ate before I went through the gate to go into Mountain Phase. 2
cheeseburgers, a large fry, and a large Sprite. I'm almost certain of it.
Yeah. And a Reese's Pieces pie. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Ooh, that's the thing is that anything. Well, I remember the conversation because that was an interesting discussion because you said anything I could do that would generate any level of potential body fat that I could lose later. I could lose it later. Anything that was in my system that would sustain and potentially put like 1 cell of extra body fat because I was losing that shit next week anyway. I mean, and you said that it was a very grueling. I like the idea of. Yeah, I like the idea of saying, "Hey, yeah, well, I don't know what I'm going to eat again, so if I have the opportunity, I should be munching along." That's smart. And then, how much water would you say hydration base? What should they be expecting? So before a patrol. Yeah, well, I mean, that's all situation dependent. I mean, the food is too, but not as much, but situation dependent for the environment and the patrols and what you're doing. But what I try to do is I try to start off with as much water in me as I can. So usually that's 1 full like water bottle or an Nalgene. I'll consume an Nalgene before I'll step off. And then that usually means I have to like pee 3 or 4 times before we get to the objective, but whatever. You learn how to pee while you're walking, which is quite a challenge for most women. And then, And then I don't bring a lot of water. I know a lot of people are really scared of not having water on them, but I usually only bring 2. Like this last events, I only brought 2 Nalgenes per mission, and each mission probably lasted for 2 to 4 hours. So 48 ounces of water or 24? Because are they 24 ounce Nalgenes? Are they or 18s or a 24?
32.
So you have a gallon. That's legit. That's plenty. Like, I mean, I wouldn't think you'd burn that up. I mean, and then
once I get back, I consume another or start to consume. I usually eat something when I get back too, so that usually kills an Nalgene, and then I'll drink a little bit throughout the day. But usually at that point, I'm pretty hydrated if I'm doing that. I haven't had an issue yet,
Well, I wouldn't think you haven't had any issues. But you're eating enough salt. That wouldn't be factoral. So, I mean, that's the only thing that you have. I would be worried more about salt and water than anything if I was doing high output, just because I don't want to cramp up, and that sucks ass. Have you ever been a heat casualty, Wes? Have you ever had it happen? Lock completely up?
Middle school on a trip up to Canada, I got like some mild heat stroke. About it.
Okay.
Just dehydration.
Have you ever had a heat cache happen? For you, Avery? Have you ever had like absolute body lock?
I was going to say no, and then I realized that that's absolutely not true. My Hell's Canyon trip with 2 other rangers and I hiked up a very, very steep incline, and we ran out of water. And I would probably consider myself a heat cat at that point.
I first race I ever did racing, first weekend, first race ever. It was hot as hell. It was 150 on the tarmac. And it was smoking ass hot. Well, lo and behold, I was drinking water, but I wasn't using. I was hydrated, but I didn't have any salt. My body ran out of salt, and I was watching my legs do all the weird constrictions, and like everything is just absolutely knotting up. And then I went and raced, and I could barely move my feet, and I almost fell off the bike at like 150 miles an hour, like trying to hold on to it.
Yikes.
That is the one thing I learned from. Okay, so experience is a great teacher. So you're like, what are you gonna do before this major thing? I'm gonna eat a lot of fucking salty food. I'm gonna get that salt content up, and I want to make sure whatever I'm consuming has enough that I can sustain. Not like I'm bringing a shaker of salt and salting my water, but like you're just eating salty enough food, depending on your environment. If it's cold, salt's probably not going to be as big a factor. But if it's hot as hell, it's going to be a big factor. So I think it goes to support Avery's direction of know your environment, know your mission, and then adjust accordingly.
Yeah. I think we're good on time here. Too. Yeah. Great information. We should definitely come back on like nutritional things for like being in combat or going out to events and stuff like that. But I think good for this week. And guys, don't forget, conspirafacttipjar@gmail.com if you want to financially support us. The old tip jar is still up. You can send us some funds there if you so choose, if you enjoy the content. But yeah, follow us. We have a Facebook page now. Follow us on Facebook and subscribe on YouTube. And we're going to put the video podcast there, and we'll have the audio podcast. We'll have it posted to Spreaker, so your podcast catchers can take it, and then we'll also have it on YouTube as well. I'll figure out how to get that to work, so we'll have both video and audio on YouTube. Yeah, it's going to do it for us here this week. And hey guys, thank you for watching. And remember, when it comes to rights, whether it be your First Amendment, Second Amendment, or all the others, make sure you stay unsuppressed. See ya.